All right, good morning. This video, I guess it's morning for me when I record this. This video is for assignment 1.11, and I'm going to go up here to content to find it. It's for 1.11 Field Study Remote Sensing 1. And this particular video is going to be for part 1 of the investigation. Or of the field study. There are 3 parts to the field study. Now, to get you there, you do want to read the lesson introduction. You do want to read the Explore. This is your background information. And then when you go here to investigation field study, this is where you're going to find the instructions for actually doing the field study. You'll notice over here on the right-hand side of the screen, there are several documents and images, JPEGs and GIFs, that you need to eventually open, but you don't have to open them all at once if you don't want to. So I already have the directions open, the Field Study Procedures Remote Sensing Doc, that is the document. Okay, I already have that one opened. And I have that right here. So these are all of the procedures. I like to scan the procedures first, and I've highlighted the different parts. So there's part 1, what do these images reveal? Part 2, analysis of volcanic eruptions. And lastly, part 3, closer to home. And then lastly, analyze. So I've got this open. Again, this video will be for part 1, what do these images reveal? So it says, from the list of materials for this lesson, click the image titled Gulfstream 1, blah, blah, blah. So that's this image here, Gulfstream 1. I'm eventually going to need Gulfstream 2. I already have these opened, so I already have them open. So here is Gulfstream 1. This is image number 1. I just show it to you. And I believe the directions say something about look at it and figure out kind of what you can figure out. It's kind of blurry, but I can see this is surface temperature in centigrade, which is Celsius. So we've got cold is in blue, really dark is 0 degrees, and then warmer is in darker red, up to 32 degrees. So I'm like, okay, this stuff's all blue. This stuff, like look at those colors and kind of get a sense of how the temperature is changing in this area over time, or over space. Going back to my directions, it says determine what area you are viewing. And it says to look at the legend and the key. This actually didn't tell us, well, it did give us the latitude and longitude, which we could type into Google to figure out where it is. But this does tell us that it is the ocean and land temperature near the Atlantic coast of the United States. And I was curious about this coastline. So just for fun, so this is the land and this is the water. So just for fun, I did a quick Google search of the coastline and I found it. Where did I find it? I found it, right here. So what you're looking at is actually this section right here, classified as the mid-Atlantic, okay? And you can see this little part, this little part right here is actually shown as well on that image, okay? All right, so here we go. Okay, back to here. So then we're gonna open up our Word document again, and we're gonna say, color represents data. Notice the colors closer to and farther away from the coastline. What trends do you see? So follow this while looking at your image and kind of answer these questions to yourself. And then click on the image titled Gulfstream 2. Consider the 2 images of the same general region, and they're not the same exact region. They're actually zoomed out a little bit, but it's the same general region. And it's further south along the coast. These images were taken several days apart. So here's the images. So in image number 2, you actually have 2 images, the one up here and the one down here. Again, we've got the coastline. This time it's labeled a little bit, and we've got the Atlantic Ocean. So Atlantic and coastline. Again, 2 images, and our directions say the 2 images of the same general regions, but further south. These images were taken several days apart in early September of 1999. What are the substantial differences between them? The first image is prior to the onset of Hurricane Dennis. The second was taken shortly after the hurricane. So again, you're just looking and you're comparing what has happened with the surface temperature distribution here compared to Hurricane Dennis, what has happened to the surface temperature distribution here. Okay, and you're thinking about, the water here is pretty warm. It's in the orange 28-degree range with a little bit of cold stuff out here. The land is fairly warm with a few cold patches. Interesting what those areas might be, because those are really cold compared to the other stuff. A couple days later, after Hurricane Dennis went through, we can see the water and the land have both sort of radically had an interesting change in distribution of temperatures, which you analyze. Then I'm going to show you the next part since we're on part 1. So those are just questions, and feel free when you have this open, you can type some answers in here, but you don't have to, but you can if you want to. And later on, using this document for typing stuff in will be really helpful. But the other thing that you want to do, so many tabs open, the other thing that you want to do is, wow, okay, Miss Perry, is you do want to have the assignment itself actually opened. These are just the materials for doing the assignment. What you're going to turn in, I'm going to go back to content. What you're going to turn in can be found under the assessment portion of the assignment. And this is the graded assignment field study remote sensing 1. I already have that opened, so I am going to click on it right here. So notice how question number 1 says, in part 1 of the field study, you qualitatively compared images of sea surface temperature data. Discuss how remote sensing in this case was more valuable than other kinds of data collection, citing at least 2 ways in which remote sensing was a superior form of data collection. So in other words, why is remote sensing for collecting data in this sort of a situation superior than other ways of collecting data? And you might be asking, Ms. Perry, what are other ways of collecting data? Well, if you're not collecting data remotely, what are you doing? You're actually there on the ground collecting data in real time. Okay, now think about that. If you were on the ground collecting data in real time in this situation, what would how much data would you have? Right? Because consider, this is a huge area. We're talking about a large chunk of the Atlantic coastline here. How is collecting this data remotely superior to collecting it in person in real time? And come up with a couple of different advantages for collecting data that way. All right, that's part 1. I hope this video was helpful for part 1.